You think your last name is just a label, something you sign on a form and forget. It isn't. If your surname appears on the list I'm about to show you, then you are not simply Scottish by heritage. You are connected to a specific bloodline, a specific throne, a specific line of kings who ruled this land when it was young and wild, and fought over by Picts and Gaels and Norsemen all at once. Because Scotland was forged by a handful of royal houses, dynasties that clawed their way to the crown at Scone and held it against every rival, and the greatest clans of the Highlands built their entire identity on the claim that their blood ran back to those kings. 12 surnames, 12 bloodlines, and recent DNA breakthroughs have begun to do what the old Sionchades, the clan storytellers, only chanted from memory, tracing these names back through the royal houses of Scotland, toward the very founders of the kingdom itself. Stay until the final surnames, because several of them claim descent from a single ancient father king, a bloodline so proud it took as its motto the words, "Royal is my race." Your name survived 1,000 years of feud and rebellion. The question is, which king first carried it? Let's begin with the name that sat longest upon the throne of Scotland. We start with the name that ruled Scotland longer than any other, Stuart, and its royal French spelling, Stuart. And here is the surprise buried in one of the most regal names in history. It began not as a king's name, but as a servant's. It comes from the office of the High Steward of Scotland, the official who managed the royal household and finances, a post granted to the family by King David I in the 12th century, and made hereditary. For generations they were simply the stewards, until the office became the name. And then came the marriage that changed everything. Walter, the 6th High Steward, married Marjorie Bruce, the daughter of Robert the Bruce himself. Their son became King Robert II in 1371, and from that moment the Stuarts were no longer servants of the crown, but the wearers of it, ruling Scotland, and later all of Britain, for more than 3 centuries, from Mary, Queen of Scots, to James VI, who united the crowns of Scotland and England. A name that meant the keeper of the house came to mean the royal house itself. If your name is Stuart, you carry the name of Scotland's longest reigning dynasty, and the next name belonged to the greatest king Scotland ever produced. The second name is Bruce, and it is not, in its origin, a Gaelic name at all, but Norman French, taken from a place in Normandy, brought to Scotland by a family of Norman knights who rose into the very heart of the Scottish nobility. For all its foreign roots, no name is more bound to Scottish freedom, because it was borne by Robert the Bruce, the king who saved the nation. When the old royal line failed and Edward of England tried to swallow Scotland whole, it was Robert the Bruce who, after years of defeat, hiding, and legend, the story of the spider in the cave, teaching him to try again, shattered the English army at Bannockburn in 1314, one of the most famous victories in all of British history, and won Scotland's independence. His heart, it is said, was cut from his body after death, and carried on crusade toward the Holy Land, flung into battle by a knight who cried, "Lead on, brave heart." If your name is Bruce, you carry the name of the king who won Scotland's freedom. And the third name belonged to the family who made kings, and reaches back to Macbeth's own age. The third name is Macduff, and its many kin, the Duffs. The name comes from the Gaelic Macduv, the son of the Dark One, from dub, meaning black or dark. And this is a name from the very oldest layer of the Scottish crown, for the Macduffs were the ancient earls, or mormaers, of Fife, and they held an extraordinary privilege above all other families in Scotland. It was the head of Clan Macduff who held the hereditary right to place the new king upon the royal stone of destiny at Scone, to crown the King of Scots with his own hands. Without a Macduff, the crowning was not complete. The name lives forever in Shakespeare, for it is Macduff, the Thane of Fife, who at last brings down the tyrant Macbeth, the man not of woman born who fulfills the witch's prophecy. If your name is Macduff or Duff, you carry the name of the family who crowned the kings of Scotland. And now we come to the proudest claim in all the Highlands. The fourth name belonged to a clan whose very motto declares its royal blood. The fourth name is Grant. There are 2 roots offered for it, one from the French grand, meaning great or large, and one that the clan itself held dearest, a descent from the ancient royal kindred of Seol Alpan, the seed of Alpan, the bloodline of the very first kings of a united Scotland. The Grants were one of the powerful clans who claimed descent from Alpin, father of Kenneth MacAlpin, the king who in the 9th century united the Picts and the Scots into a single kingdom. They rose to great power in Strathspey and the country around the River Spey, raising Castle Grant and dominating that Highland heartland for centuries. Their proud motto, still carried today, is a single word: stand fast. If your name is Grant, you may carry the blood of the Seol Alpin, the royal race of Scotland's first kings. And the 5th name shares that same ancient royal claim and guarded a sacred island. Before I go on, here is something almost no one watching realizes about their own name. If you've ever looked at your surname and wondered whether the blood of Scotland's kings runs somewhere in your line, I've put the whole story together in a guide called Where Do You Really Come From? The link is in the description below. But stay right here, because what comes next is the part most people completely miss. The names ahead include the guardians of a holy island, the sons of a Norse Gaelic sea king, and a clan whose motto proclaims, in the plainest words, that its race is royal. The 5th name is MacKinnon. In Gaelic, Mac Fionnghain, the son of the Fairborn, or the Fair One, and the MacKinnons were another of the great clans of Seol Alpin, claiming that same descent from the royal house of Alpin and the first kings of Scots. They held lands on the Isles of Mull and Skye, and they carried a sacred trust, for the MacKinnons were long the hereditary keepers, the abbots, of the holy island of Iona, the cradle of Scottish Christianity, where St. Columba had founded his monastery, and where the ancient kings of Scotland, including Macbeth and Duncan, were carried to be buried in hallowed ground. To guard Iona was to guard the soul of the kingdom. If your name is MacKinnon, you may carry the royal blood of Seol Alpin and the memory of Iona's keepers, and the 6th name completes the royal kindred, and stood at the crowning of kings. The 6th name is MacNab, in Gaelic, Macanaba, and the meaning is unmistakable, the son of the abbot. It comes from the hereditary abbots of the great monastery of Glendochart, founded in the tradition of St. Filion, and like the Grants and MacKinnons, the MacNabs are counted among the Seol Alpin, the clans who trace their blood to the royal house of the first Scottish kings. That a clan should descend from an abbot was no contradiction in the early Celtic Church, where such offices passed down through noble families by blood. They held their lands around Loch Tay and Glendochart in the Central Highlands, a proud and ancient people. If your name is MacNab, you may carry the royal blood of Seol Alpin through the abbots of the Celtic Church. And the 7th name belonged to the sons of a sea king who nearly ruled the West himself. The 7th name is MacDougall. In Gaelic, MacDougall, the son of Dougal, and Dougal itself means the dark stranger, an old Gaelic name for the Danes, the dark-haired Norsemen. And this is a royal name of the Western Seas, for the MacDougalls descend from Dougal, the eldest son of Somerled, the mighty 12th century Norse Gaelic warlord, who carved out a kingdom across the western coast and isles, and ruled it almost as a king in his own right. As the eldest son's line, the MacDougalls inherited Somerled's heartland of Lorne and Argyll, and the Isles of Mull and Jura, ruling from great sea castles like Dunolly and Dunstaffnage. They grew so powerful, they nearly captured Robert the Bruce himself in his darkest days, and paid for it dearly when he rose. If your name is MacDougall, you descend from the royal house of Somerled, the sea kings of the West, and the 8th name rose from the same Highland world to rule the North. The 8th name is Mackenzie. In Gaelic, Macoinich, the son of Coinich, and Coinich means the fair one, or the bright, handsome one. The Mackenzies rose from the wild and beautiful country of Kintail in the Western Highlands, and their original stronghold was one of the most photographed castles in the world today, Éilíonn Donan, set on its own small island where 3 sea lochs meet. From there the clan spread and grew until they were among the most powerful families in the Northern Highlands, lords of vast territories across Ross-shire, famed for their political cunning and their steady rise to power as Earls of Seaforth. If your name is Mackenzie, You carry the name of one of the great ruling clans of the north, and the ninth name descends from the kings of Ireland themselves. The ninth name is MacNeil, or MacNeil. In Gaelic, MacNeil, the son of Neil, and Neil is an ancient and mighty name meaning champion, or cloud. The MacNeils of Barra, lords of that remote island in the Outer Hebrides, claimed a descent grander than almost any other, tracing their blood back to Niall of the Nine Hostages, the legendary High King of Ireland from whom the greatest Irish royal dynasties sprang. From their stronghold of Keesimul Castle, rising straight out of the sea in Barra's Bay, the MacNeil chiefs ruled their island kingdom with such pride that legend tells, after the chief had dined, a herald would climb the castle tower and proclaim to the world that the MacNeil of Barra had eaten, and now the other princes of the earth were free to dine. If your name is MacNeil, you may carry the blood of the High Kings of Ireland, and the 10th name became the mightiest clan in all the Highlands. The 10th name is Campbell. In Gaelic, Cambeal, and the meaning is a blunt old nickname from Cambeal, the crooked mouth, or wry mouth. But there was nothing crooked about their rise, for the Campbells became perhaps the most powerful clan in all of Scotland. From their heartland of Argyll they climbed, generation by generation, through shrewd alliance with the crown and ruthless ambition, until their chief was the Duke of Argyll, and their power stretched across the Western Highlands. They claimed a legendary descent from an ancient hero named Diarmaid of Celtic myth, and they backed the winning side in nearly every conflict that mattered, growing ever greater while rival clans fell. If your name is Campbell, you carry the name of the mightiest clan of the Highlands. And the 11th name is one of the oldest of them all, sprung from the same royal seed. The 11th name is MacLachlan. In Gaelic, MacLachlan, the son of Lachlan, a name that carries the meaning of the Fjordland, or the land of the Lochs, a name tied to the Norse. The MacLachlans are among the most ancient of the Highland clans, and they trace their line back through the centuries to the old royal houses of Ireland and the Gaelic kingdom of Dalriada, the very kingdom from which Kenneth MacAlpin's Scots had come. From their lands on the shores of Loch Fyne, where Castle Lachlan still stands, they held their ground for the better part of 1,000 years, one of the few clans able to trace an unbroken male line back to the Age of Kings. If your name is MacLachlan, you carry one of the oldest royal-descended names in the Highlands. And now the 12th and final name, the source of them all, the very root of the royal race. The 12th name is MacAlpine, or MacAlpin. In Gaelic, Mac Ailpain, the son of Alpin, and there is no more royal name in all of Scotland, for this is the name of the founding dynasty itself. Alpin was the father of Kenneth MacAlpin, Sinead MacAlpin, the king who around the year 843 united the Picts and the Scots into the single kingdom of Alba, the seed from which Scotland itself would grow, earning him the ancient title, the Conqueror. Every king of Scots, for centuries after, traced his crown back to that founding father. And the great clans of C.L. Alpin, the Grants, the McKinnons, the MacNabs, the MacGregors, and others, all bound themselves together by the claim to descend from him. The MacGregors put it most fiercely of all in their motto, Surio Gal Mo Dream, royal is my race. That was the boast of the whole kindred. If your name is MacAlpine, you carry the very name of the man who founded the Kingdom of Scotland. And that is the thread that runs through every name on this list. 12 surnames, 12 bloodlines, 12 threads leading back through the Stone of Destiny at Scone, through the sea castles of the Norse Gaelic kings, through the holy ground of Iona and the battlefield of Bannockburn, all the way to the founding father whose sons became the first kings of a united Scotland. And here is what the DNA breakthroughs really revealed. Your name was never just a label. It is a throne. It is a Highland glen your ancestors ruled and bled for. It is the memory of the royal houses that forged a nation out of Picts and Gaels and Norsemen, carried down through 1,000 years of feud and rebellion and exile, by families who lost their lands, followed their kings into lost battles, and crossed oceans with little more than the name itself. Some of these names began at the crowning stone of Scone. Some began with a steward, a sea king, an abbot, or a founding father whose blood a dozen clans still claim. But every single one of them survived. So tell me, Drop your surname in the comments and tell me which royal house or ancient clan your bloodline comes from. And if you know the story your family carried out of Scotland, say it, because those stories deserve to be heard. If you made it to the end, subscribe. Every week we go deeper into the names people carry, without ever knowing what they truly mean.